What's up, welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of Rosé's debut album, Rosie. Rosé, of course, 1/4 of BLACKPINK. And as we know, the BLACKPINK members are in the midst of a solo music onslaught. Lisa giving us 3 singles, Jenny giving us a single, Rosé giving us a massive lead single leading up to this album. I expect Jenny and Lisa albums in 2025. Doesn't seem like Jisoo's focused on music too much right now in the solo front. Nonetheless, this is obviously a fun time for Blackpink fans, as we know that Blackpink will continue in the new year, having renewed their contracts with YG after a lot of questioning if that would happen. But notably, all 4 Blackpink members did not re-sign their solo output to YG. As a result, they've linked up with Western music labels, with Rosé, of course, signing on with Atlantic Records for her solo music. And this decision across the board for the members makes a lot of sense because the YG management of the Blackpink machine was routinely criticized. There just wasn't a lot of music from that group, and there was not a lot of collaborations outside of their system. People know this at this point. I don't have to belabor that point, but it's exciting to see the possibility of what's to come with other people involved creatively, apart from YG and Teddy Park and all the familiar faces. And let's just say the dividends of Rosé signing with Atlantic paid off almost immediately, because her debut single, a solo single, in this cycle, of course, she released those 2 solo songs, about 3 years ago, right? But this cycle, the first single, APT, features none other than Bruno Mars, also an Atlantic Records signee. And this song, when it released in late October, just went completely nuclear. This song has completely crossed over into mainstream pop. We are well beyond the K-pop sphere when it comes to this track. And you look under the hood of it, it has Bruno Mars co-producing and co-writing the song alongside Rosé, but also a lot of other songwriters were involved with that song, and big, high-profile mainstream writers like Lily Allen and Omer Fedi were in the mix here. And it's just really cool to see a major label really invested in one of the Blackpink members, in this case, Rosé. APT, just to put the numbers in perspective here, is approaching 550 million streams on Spotify. It's got 500 plus on YouTube. This is a massive song that's on commercials on TV now. And Blackpink fans, Rosé fans deserve credit, but also you have to cite the Bruno effect with this, because Bruno Mars this year actually unseated The Weeknd as the #1 most listened to artist on the platform when it comes to Spotify monthly listeners. Now, that's not the end-all be-all metric, but it is impressive considering Bruno only released 2 new songs this year, the Lady Gaga duet and APT with Rosé. So as a result, with this, Rosé has 60 million monthly listeners. She's number 29 on that metric right now. It's absolutely crazy. And it's good because hopefully this will bring a lot of people who never heard of her before to her music, to her career, at least to her solo career. So we hope it continues. And the success of APT makes a lot of sense, right? Like, it's inspired by this Korean drinking game, but ultimately, like, it's just a really well crafted, bit of pop punk, honestly. This awesome pre chorus vocally from Rosé, and then just an incredibly catchy chorus. Like, it's a vocal tick that just gets immediately stuck in your head. It's a great piece of writing, even if ultimately the song is a bit simple. I love when Bruno and Rosé harmonize together in the second verse as well. The bridge towards the end also kind of ratchets back up the energy on the song. It's a big banger for sure, and it's been awesome to see it become so successful. Of course, I wasn't really expecting this sound from Rosé, nor was I expecting it to continue on the full album, just because she is more of the singer-songwriter, guitar on the lap type performer. This is not really her general vibe, but it's fun to see this from her as well. I'm happy to say that Rosé's debut album, Rosie, is a great success. Following the gargantuan success of APT with Bruno Mars, she's released an album that feels congruous to that song, but also more in line with the type of music you expect from her. I think this is an album that's going to resonate with a lot of listeners because this is emotional, lyric driven music. And Rosé, who has a striking, passionate voice when she belts out on ballads and also a fun energy when she's on more up tempo work, she's kind of right at home on this material. Listening to a song like Toxic Till the End with its big chorus, its very noticeable guitar, positioning of an X as the lyrical focus of the song, it's very much existing in the world of Taylor Swift, and you get that again on a song like Game Boy later on. This very much feels like a pop album in 2024 in the best way, but it also feels very much like a Rosé album in terms of what we expect from her as a performer and as a writer. I would say this ultimately exceeded my expectations in terms of what I expected this to be. Track 1, Number One Girl, the second single, also co-written and co-produced by Bruno, even though he wasn't he's not on the song. That's a song that, I think from other performers I probably wouldn't care for too much because it's a pretty simple, straightforward piano ballad. But Rosé, the way she belts it out, like I think it's pretty compelling. The flourishes that she can do vocally. It's not like she's hitting like a crazy high notes or anything. That's not her style. But I just think the way she can kind of modulate her voice a little bit, up and down her range, it's really enjoyable. The second song, 3 a.m., was one of the highlights for me. I think the chorus is great on this. I love the way the tempo picks up as we get to the chorus. Kind of just acoustic guitar with drums. Again, the kind of like light pop punkish energy you got in APT is also on this song. Track 3, 2 Years. I think this song is kind of musically plain, even if the songwriting is pretty solid. But then, as I mentioned, the next song, APT, as we know, that brings us to Toxic Till the End. This is a huge banger. It's a very energetic, big chorus from Rosé. And that leads into Drinks or Coffee, where we start to get some synths for the first time. Another really nicely written hook. I think the bass hits on this. A little bit of like self-harmonizing in verse 2 is quite fun. Then we get APT, and then we get Game Boy. And I think Game Boy, the beat on this song absolutely rocks. I love the way the guitar strumming kind of carries the tempo along. And then it's just really awesome singing from Rosé across her vocal range. Probably the best pure pop songwriting to me on the album. I think this song writing-wise is a little bit more involved than APT. And in general, I think this stretch, this 4-song stretch of Toxic Till the End, Drinks or Coffee, APT, and Game Boy is absolutely fantastic. And then from this point is where the album kind of fades out for me. These last 5 songs are just not as strong as the beginning of the project. Stay a Little Longer, another ballad, strong singing from Rosé, but not the most memorable song. Not the same, at least you have a bit more melody on this one, it's just okay. Call It the End, this one's a bit slight to me, not much to celebrate about, in my opinion. Too Bad for Us, again, kind of more of the same. But then at least I think the closer, Dance All Night, this one a bit more up tempo. You have the drums with like some hand clap or something. At least it has a little bit more energy to take it out. So I think that last stretch, like you have to, I think, really be connecting with the lyrics to enjoy that, because to me that's the most staid section of the album. But that 4-song stretch plus 3 a.m. throw in Number One Girl, like that's really good. If you read or listen to a lot of the press that Rosé's done for this album, and she did a lot of it, you can get a sense from her that she was not super creatively fulfilled as a member of BLACKPINK. Makes a lot of sense. I think probably all the members in the group would feel that way. It's a common sentiment when you're in part of a larger ensemble like that in pop. Makes sense. But this feels like a really great way to make up for lost time. It's also been super cool to see Bruno do so much press and promotion for APT throughout this cycle as well. He very much feels a lot of ownership and reverence for the success of the song, which is pretty cool. It doesn't come across as just like a check job or something Atlantic hooked up. Like, he seems to have a really cool relationship, professionally at least, with Rosé, which is cool to see. And yeah, at this point, it's like, oh man, I would love this Rosé solo career to keep going, and the fact that she's signed to Atlantic with this, it'll probably actually have some momentum now and not just get completely forgotten, right? Let's look back to when BLACKPINK first did solo stuff on YG. Jennie released one solo song in 2018, and then it was nothing for years, right? We're talking one single. I like to think Rosé, with Atlantic's help, would have a more steady output, right? In the short term, of course, we know that she'll be back with Blackpink in 2025. That has been said many times by YG. They're going to go on tour once again. So, hoping the new Blackpink music that preludes that performing is cool. Of course, we welcome it. We need more of it, as we know. There's only so much Blackpink music out there, despite the career they've had since 2016. We'll see. And the three Lisa solo singles recently suggest an album from her is on the way. Jennie gave us Mantra. She's talked about an album, so we'll get more Blackpink solo stuff soon. But I think this Rosé album, Rosie, is setting a pretty high bar, and it's in a sense, it's not really a K-pop release at all. It's from a K-pop singer, but it's very much Westernly produced, almost entirely English project, working with Western songwriters and producers and whatnot. But hey, that's okay. Globalism of music. We've been wanting Blackpink to work with people in the West for years, with a few exceptions. The success of the Dua Lipa feature, the success of Lady Gaga feature, right, suggested Blackpink had a lot of room to navigate outside of K-pop, and YG just never made it happen. So we'll see what happens in the future. But let me know, what did you think of Rosé's debut solo album, Rosie? What was your favorite song on it? What do you like most about it? And for more music reviews, more K-pop reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.